maybe not on a large number in this channel here, but we're doing some work here on the backup channel, and we thank you for even having the ability to reach out and touch other people here in other countries, via the net, the worldwide net. So thank you for that ability to live stream. Kind of life-saving for some people, be able to catch that moment in time, if you will. So pretty important device here. We use this tech properly, right? So good and bad is all things. So we'll see if we can hold the stream here and get us I've got it set for public, so we'll see if we can get some other faces in here. And I don't know what the algorithm's doing here. So we did a couple streams earlier, a couple hours, stayed in here for a little bit, talked about a few different things. They've got a military on the streets in this country now. I don't think people are taking that very serious. That's something that wasn't supposed to happen. They're not supposed to use the active duty, federal, the posse comitatus is the constitutional law that's been that they can't do that. They can't use the military in a law enforcement capacity, and now they are. So very interesting times. That's over something that was created. If you look at this, has been decades of people coming across the southern and northern border of this country, and yet this is a problem all of a sudden to bring the military onto the streets. There's been a lot worse incidents, riots, people burning down. I'm in Oregon. The two-sided, the BLM and the Antifa, they burnt down the cities. And this is the only place where they burnt down cities. So they didn't bring the active duty military, in. And I'm a prior veteran. That's going against your home. It's one thing when you take an oath. You think I was at National Guard. It's one thing to have National Guard. When you bring the military onto the streets, that's but they repealed that posse comitatus, and now they've got those weapons that were supposed to be pointed away from us, not at us, are now pointed straight at the American people. So, and making it about Mexico when, there's been a lot more people coming across the border that were other than Mexican since a couple, 2-3 regimes ago, whatever regime, color you pick, Democrat or Republican, I don't care, it don't matter. They did that in Rome, but figure we might have the conversation. It's an adult-only stream, so if you want to act like adults and have a conversation, why we have the active duty Marines, I think 700 Marines on the streets of America. So there you go. That's now they got this Kings, no Kings on the 14th with a bunch of these supposed, we'll see. I don't think any of this is it doesn't make any sense to me, because there's a lot more people than Mexicans coming across the border. So good. It's like nobody wants to have the conversation. So, well, looks aren't everything, man. What about what's happening to this country? It looks like the nation state is at war. The government is turned on the people, bringing the military out onto the streets of the people. I'm a prior veteran and served this beast system. So we're all people, got to be here on this rock together. But you don't use your active duty against the military, against the people. We have and then this whole going around the president going around the governor, and the governor's one is supposed to declare this, you know, national emergency, or and eventually, national emergency being at a national level, but a state emergency or martial law, and then bring in the military. That's how it's done. So, kind of skip this. This has been done since I can't remember last time. I think I was looking at this, and I know they did this at like the Civil War, but I think it was done in like the 60s is the last time they did something like this. So, yeah, most people uh, don't want to talk about it, and you know this is still going on in the country, and the rights of the people just keep getting eroded. So that's where this is leading to another event where they'll just take away more rights. One, Hegelian dialect, they have a pre-planned hero to get to be the hero for. They create a problem, and the public reacts to that problem, and they come in to sweep up or fix or clean up the problem they created and be the hero. So it's alarming, how people don't see how this is done over and over again. They drop 3 steel buildings with 2 airplanes, and they're still got the TSA and touching kids at airports, and that's not all right with me. So, here we are. You know, um, the whole magnetosphere has failed, so they're really not responding to the. Oh, look at that! Clear them all out of here. Thank you, Father, for that. All they care about is ice, vanilla ice. So we got food. Oh, that's an actor, right? Or a singer. Doom, 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 doom. All right, bread and circus. You have to give them enough bread and circus, and they'll never revolt, right? So here we are, another day of rioting, and now they've got Chicago, and they've got. I think there's some other places where this is again popping off. So it doesn't seem organic. You don't know why America would stand up. Like 40% of the populace works for the government in one way, shape, or form as a military, contract, private, state, federal, county, by the taxpayer. They're getting paid by the taxpayer. So again, why would they, why would they stand up against this? There are those people on the other side. So, um, people in government, that's what we call them on the channel. So, anyways, we'll keep going. Doesn't look like anybody wants to have an adult conversation, but that's all right. We'll do it put it out into the ether so it can be said, so you don't go down as the silent majority. A majority of the people who are. I'm not saying you're gonna change what's happening, by going and doing what people are doing by protesting. I think at this point in time that redressing grievances is part of the First Amendment right. The First Amendment: Congress shall establish no law prohibiting the exercise of free speech of the press, of the origin of religion, the right to peacefully assemble, form militias, right? All part of our First Amendment. Redress grievances and ballots. We're supposed to do this by talking, and voting and having the process of, but all that's gone. Now we just drop democracy bombs on people, make people pay for oil. So with the U.S. dollar, well, the SWIFT system, we get a little bit of your, well, you got to pay with a little bit of our money. It's like a mafia, but yep, mafia type behavior going on in this corporation now. Used to be a constitutional republic, but not anymore. So thought we might have somebody come in, and maybe people are more too busy just paying the bills, right? Trying to get by. So very expensive to even have an extra moment to spare in time. So if you're blessed with extra moments, what would you trade those extra moments for? Time? Would you rather a bunch of time, or would you rather have a bunch of money? You tell me, time or money? What's your fancy? You know, you have abundance of time. Could you buy your happiness? or would you rather have a bunch of time, not have to worry about bills? So the old chase the clock like a rabbit and a tortoise, sound like a race. Get on the rat race and do the stopwatch clock. So imagine if you just did it on your own system. Most people don't know that's even a possibility because they think they need to punch the clock, and that's the only way. You know, the old American dream. Make so much money that you got piles of it in your backyard, and your neighbors griping that their lawn is not growing because there's so much shade in their yard because you got piles of money, right? As they just inflated away, right? Keep war machine, baby. So here we are. We're on the streets of America. Who's paying for all these National Guard? Who's paying for all these people to be on the streets? Well, that would be the taxpayer. There's no such thing as government funded. There's only taxpayer funded. So you have to remember that. So, all right, we'll try to pack some good content in here for maybe if we'll get any views. Just yeah, we'll see. This is a small channel. You know, the former Predestined for Light, now High Desert Faith and Truth, that went from 300 to 17, almost 18,000 in just a couple matter of months. So we'll do some more content work here on the backup channel here at Silver's Light Gold, out here at Silver Rock Ranch. And yeah, what a time to be a witness out here in the largest dark sky sanctuary on this rock, and 2.5 million acres. I'm on 20 here at the High Desert Faith and Truth at Silver Rock Ranch. Been a nice day. It hadn't been as hot. It's supposed to weather's supposed to get better, so I'm gonna try to get moving on that underground geothermal garden and get it red eye, so we can be growing some organic foods in there. And yeah, what a nice thing that'll be to add to what we already got going out here. So kind of was already part of the plan. We're just going to make it much larger and expand it. Just do a little bit different. Just flipping it on the other side of the shelter. So we'll put it in over there and get that thing rocking and growing food year round. And hopefully we can give it to the people of this channel here, you know, for the backup channel. And Silver's Light Gold, you know, and we'll send it maybe in some silver mylar bags and tie the food. So food is important. You'd like to talk about that. You got to be careful about talk about nutrition or all that, but you are what you eat. How about that? So I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Eat whatever you want. So it's not what goes in us that defiles us, but moderation, obviously, it's what comes out of us. So certain things I just don't eat, but that's okay. Everybody, I was having the conversation earlier today about texture. Just sometimes texture means everything in food. I was talking about, I don't eat a whole lot anymore, but chicken, you know, unless I remember raising myself, or really good chicken, like chicken bones. But chicken wings are something that I like them from, like Buffalo Wild Wings, or, you know, I'll make them myself and then to cook them a little bit longer. So you got to pull them off. I don't like those ones that are real soft and, you know, kind of rubbery. It's what we call them, rubbery. The batter's real fluffy in there, but some people like it like that. So who am I to say? You know, everybody's got a different taste. When it comes to music, same thing. Some people got all their different taste in religions. I don't like no taste. I don't have no religion, no taste, and ugh, disgusting. Might taste sweet, but it's bitter to the belly. So try to stay away from religions. And yeah, try to more stay in the word, define the words, and understand the words. Understand base knowledge by definition. That's how you're going to understand, by defining, right? Definition. to define, to be refined, like a long period in time, like stuck under fire and all the impurities boil out of you. Like silver and gold, like silver's like gold, right? Both those, that's how you refine. Doesn't it say that? You must be refined like silver and gold. Silver's like gold. So good stuff. I think we got the public thing working. I see people are popping in and out, so I don't know. Maybe we'll get somebody to stick in here for a moment and have a conversation. A chicken nugget came in and bounced. Maybe there's some McDonald's chicken nuggets. Yuck. All nuggets are pretty nasty. Chip pieces of all the chicken flavored and dyed. Oh, yeah, let's not talk about that. That's disgusting. You love your kids. Take them to McDonald's. McDonald's is my spot. So, no. Do. Nope. So, and then we had John Smith. Is that John Smith? I was thinking Joseph. Never mind. Where that came from. It's the Smith. It's the last name, if you will. So, all right. We'll just keep plugging away here. Like I said, we'll just produce some content for the channel, so people come in, they can watch it later. Drive some more numbers to the algorithm through content. If we don't stay too long in the tooth, some people might come in and like, what's going on in here? So, well, that would be an after, maybe a restream. So we do it live. We don't have a script here. We're not scripted. We're not some kind of actors trying to put on a front, with a grill, like fronting with a grill, right? Well, some kind of masquerade going on in here. Alrighty then. Yeah, like these actors in their ditty party. That was a big bed, wasn't it? I wonder who paid for that baby oil. G. Whiz. 5G. Whiz. All right. So, all right. How about cheddar? Never had a butter. Better butter. Well, how far away is cheddar from butter from cheddar cheese? I don't know. Said something about vanilla ice. John Smith said vanilla ice. We're just making some comments about this. A couple of comments, people came in and then made some comments. Nobody else has had enough. They don't say nothing. Like priest meat eat on Sunday, meat. What kind of priest? I don't know. Catholic, maybe, right? Do you confess your sins to a man? What kind of meat do they eat on Sunday? None. All right. Like there's nobody in here except for me. Are you talking to the walls? Speaking to the eternal existence, time, place, and space. So people are going to be the silent majority. They don't speak up at all. They don't say nothing. They're no, people say things, but they're just a loss for most of them for words. So anything by definition, it's more translation than transliteration. So literally, they don't speak. Their slang, their vernacular, or their tongue, their dialect is they speak a lot of slang, a lot of parables, if you will, kind of well, parables would be like, like the word hados means in the same narrow way, like, like right over the same. So maybe that isn't, well, more like idioms. difference between being an idiot and an idiom, but most people could not define either, and that's okay. For lack of this knowledge, he said, my people shall perish. Revelation 9:11 says the abyss. It's called hell. They call that hell now, right? Hell. Hell would be 129 pound, well, 130. How about that? It says a talent, a big old talent is 130, just shy, a couple ounces. Are we gonna fly in here? I don't like flies, so I guess they're necessary. Father knows what he's doing, so. But we got it's the desert, so you can normally keep them out of the cabin here. Does a pretty good job with the screen, but anyways, we won't talk about the windows. Probably, maybe there one got in the window. I don't even like one fly. None. Get away from me. Get out of my space. My space. Whatever happened to that? My space. Never did a space. I don't do space. I don't do my space. I don't do myself, right? Well, self will. So, self will or higher powers will. All right, doesn't look like YouTube's throwing this channel into the algorithm, and that's all right. No worries. We'll just create some content. We won't do super long videos, but we'll throw some more up for the channel. Maybe some people come by and they'll be interested in it and see it later. And people part of the re-stream get to watch the content through Restream. I'll re-upload them. I don't know why it's for some reason it's saying that they're private videos. Let's see, what time is it? It's 5:49. All right, so it's about 8 or 9, and people probably eating dinner on the East Coast, hey? On the right. Is that the right coast? I ain't right. On the left. And we're the Pacific Northwest. On the left side. The left coast. Where some of us ain't right. How about not on the level? I'm not on the level. Are you a little off? Yeah, how about one off? There's one coming in. So, but not on the same level, right? That would be different. One of these things, when the whole wide world, north, east, west, and south, is running off a cliff, and you're the only one going in the opposite direction. The whole world's running off a cliff, and you're the only one going, or they're going to call you crazy. You say, man, you are nuts. How about that? Are you the only one? Sometimes that's the way she feels, huh? But probably not. Not many. It says many are called, but few are chosen. So it will fall on the deaf ears of most, the silent majority, who don't speak up a word or don't say a single thing about it. They're actors, if you will. They're putting on a front, remember? They're fronting. They like to be somebody they're not. Put on a mask and have a masquerade and have their big parties and celebrations. So they lie. It's okay. We're all fall short, right? Who of us deserves a single thing? Why do we deserve anything? Deserve? Why? What do we deserve? What do you deserve? Deserve anything? What makes you so deserving? How about rights? That's different, right? I have rights, shall not be infringed, but deserve, that's entitlement, right? I can't lose. Give me a trophy. I win. Give me a trophy. I get a trophy every single time. The trophy generation. We talked about that on past streams on the other channel. So if you're not subscribed, you can subscribe to this channel, and we have another channel here that's got 20,000. What do we got? 119. I'm not sure why they're not adding any channel members. I've seen we got some traffic came in on the last couple live streams, but maybe YouTube's a little slow to pick up the old algo rhythm. The hive mind the meta mind, metaverse already here. So, police state already here. Here we go. They got Marines on the streets of the Americas and, well, the North America. And people love it. They want those. I'm not sure. Posse Comitatus said that that's not supposed to be, the military is not supposed to be used in a law enforcement capacity against the people. They got active duty Marines, out there trained on de-escalation, but whatever. They're all standing there. I haven't seen any. That's good. I don't understand. It hasn't been super violent or nothing. They're not burning down cities and looting and breaking. We've seen this before on other protests, and we didn't see the military brought in. So quite the heavy hand by this current regime or administration, whatever you want to call them. Mass murder in chief, because they're over the military, the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and they over all the militaries. They are I'm a prior veteran, so they're the commander in chief of the military. And so, yeah, that's pretty, just go right over the governors and the states. California is a pretty large economy. I think it's like the 5th largest economy in the world. It's a massive, so there's a lot between the two states that go on. I know they were talking about funding for these fires and stuff, but I don't buy it. I don't buy none of it. I think it's all a bunch of hogwash, and this is all pre-planned. Why is there only Mexican flags? There's way more people coming across the border that are Mexican. There are 80% of them are not Mexican. So Mexicans are a smaller, portion. Now they're right up against her, but there was a grip load more people and more for than just these last, volley of, well, remember Trump inherited a wall problem from Obama. So it wasn't new then, and that's not new news anyway. So that's been going on for some time, like I said, many decades. So I bet you there's like 50 million people here that are undocumented, but I've already talked about that. Many people assimilate here. It's not like over what they were doing in Europe, and they get a job and they pay taxes and they get, they actually, a lot of them pay Social Security and they don't get any benefits because they're not a citizen, and they don't have a Social Security card number, but they get another card. I forget what they call it, and they pay into Social Security. They don't get any benefits of Social Security. So there are many people who come in here through the years. People don't understand immigration, I guess. So, I'm not the end all be on it, but I paid attention to this because I was born right on that border and grew up where, again, it was 70% Latino people where I was at. So I grew up as a minority. And so, but anyways, people don't, they're not paying attention. So I find that rather quite almost alarming and hilarious at the same time that people can't figure it out. And I think that this is creating this civil war because they want this war at the border, and they want this, when people were flown into this country, for some time. And again, it's, I'm not saying that there's not a problem. We do obviously don't need to just let anybody come in here. And when they let these people come in and clear out prisons from like Venezuela, they don't want to talk about Venezuelans. They want to talk about Mexicans, and they don't want to talk about these 80% of the people that are other than Mexican that are coming across the border. So I find it, again, alarming and rather kind of hilarious that the general public doesn't see that. This is just getting pulled over their eyes, and they're pushing this forward. And I'm sure we're going to see this throughout the United Corporation. Now they're having this no kings uh, rally across, I don't know, there's some supposed to be like 180 countries or 180 locations or something throughout this whatever former constitutional republic. And so people have the right to protest, but remember, the constitutional right, is of a constitutional republic has been stripped a long time ago. So remember, they were telling people you have to pull a permit if you want to protest and stuff. You got to ask permission to protest or something. It's getting quite out of hand. Imagine the original writers of the Constitution having somebody getting swatted for their grass being too long because they ignored a ticket by some little guy in a white truck that has no authority, enforcing codes, mandates, and ordinances which are for corporations. So here we are. This is what's going to happen when people don't know their constitutional rights and they give them up, and they don't, like what just recently happened with the clipping of the penny, the copper penny. I don't really see many people understanding how important that is. You need to have a means of exchange. And although, it was supposed to be in gold and silver by the Treasury, it's now, stimulus check, taxpayer funded by the future generations. And a lot of times, the future is paying for this. The generations of the future get more and more debt, and it goes further and further into the future generations where they come into this place with debt. So eventually I'm sure they're going to have to reset this, but I don't see how. Somehow, if you know anything about economics, it's like algebra. If you take some from here, you have to give it back over there. Somebody's got to pay that debt. So all this talking of auditing Fort Knox, I don't know. France didn't get their gold back in 1971, right? That they put in there in 1945. So what makes you think that anybody's going to get it back, or if there's any in there now? That'd be the stupidest thing as a military veteran, to put all your eggs in one basket, or tell the whole world, I mean, I know we did that, we're going to guard your gold, put it all here in Fort Knox, but that doesn't make any sense. Tell everybody where all the gold in the world's at and keep it in one spot. That wouldn't be, it'd be good to run that as a front, like you were running fronting, if you're holding like a business, like a lot of dealers, something like that. Maybe somebody's running something, they'll put it in there, got a cleaner business, and they'll put it in your top pocket if you got the right color ticket or something. You got the cleaner business, it's running the front. So that's what a lot of people do. They run a front in life. They got some whole other thing going, and some Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. 88, two eternal loops running right over themselves. As is above, so is below. Right? So good and evil, on earth as it is in heaven. All these things, they're all part of this same, again, interlooping time with a twist, if you will. So, heck yeah, Dabu's doing live right now. I'm sure he'll be covering some good conversations, good content with what's going on. I seen there was some stuff going on in Chicago now, a ICE protest, and we'll see if this June 14th, pops off. I just think if it is, it's not organic, and there'll be people that are hired. They always do this. There'll be instigators that work within these agencies to come in and create these, just take sometimes one plastic bottle to be thrown. And they said, what do they say now? Spit and hit. If you even make contact with these people in any way, even if you're talking to them and you accidentally spit on them, they're going to go ahead and use force against you. Now, it might be non-lethal, but they are going to strike back. So they've made it very clear, and I watched through these videos. I've been fire law enforcement, and I've done crowd control and prior military. I understand this, de-escalation, and I'm not sure if these guys are there to de-escalate, but I don't know. Like I said, most people aren't having a real conversation about it. I see a lot of, like it's like, is this really a reality? Like, are people really falling for the fact that they think it's only Mexicans that are coming across the border? I mean, that's the most naive, you know, that's pretty shallow minded. Okay. You have not been watching this for very long, have you? And this has been going on for decades. So most people have forgotten there's a tremendous amount of people that are coming from South America, all over this world, and a tremendous amount of people coming from China too. So, um, I mean, they own a lot of this infrastructure here as well. Um, there's a massive amount of them in the school systems, and I don't have anything against the people themselves, but these people have been suppressed by this corporation using oil as their weapon and silver to fuel it, the lifeblood through the circuitry and the switches, and now it's like all this is drone and tech warfare. So we're going to see a massive expansion, through the mineral and the use of minerals. So if they're going to continue to do this, what they have, this whole world believing that God's in the sky and that there's, that AI is alive, that, they're gonna, it's too late. They already have given one of these things rights, and, this whole chat GPT and this whole thing not turning itself off and reprogramming itself. It's a setup. It's just a setup for them to, maybe probably, as I see it, to bring in some more tech. This is a releasing of their tech that's been held back from this rock that's been here before. There are megalithic structures that could be built today that are already been built with not with the tech, by using combustion or whatever other tech, and it's used by using frequency and sound, and they don't want people to get a hold of that too early because they've been holding it back, and they use it in the military, and there's sound frequency weaponry is 5G whiz. That's a military patent by the United States Navy. It's been around for a lot longer than people would even, like I said, most people don't do any research on anything. They just hear some guy on a YouTube channel or something, hear somebody on a TikTok, or hear something on, I mean, you should resource. I'm not saying that you couldn't source good information from, I don't know about that lame stream media, but, you want to just hear the mockingbird narrative. That's where most people go as a whole, is just in that mainstream. And they don't see much alternative media and don't look at any second or third opinions in this, or look for the fact. And triangulation is something you need to do if you want to precision pinpoint something. If you want to have a scale drawing, then you have to measure at least 3 times. You can't get away with just 1 or 2. You definitely have to take that third, third measurement, if you will. But yeah, we'll see. Again, doesn't look like we're getting too many people to stick. So maybe we'll run it out for about an hour, and that gives about another 20 minutes. See if anybody wants to have any adult conversation about this. Now, pretty much war in the streets of America because they have the military. So once you start using the military against the people, I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, Posse Comitatus says they're not allowed to do that, but they did repeal that with that Senate bill. So here we are, and nobody stood up, and now they can draft women. The women of America will be drafted like the ones in Ukraine were drafted and sent into the meat grinder. And now there is no fighting age women in Ukraine because they're all dead, and it was paid for by the U.S. taxpayer. They paid to meat grind these women up, and men, but it took about 3 years to do by Russia, and so I wonder how long it'll take to do to the American women. So they've already passed that too, where they can draft American women, and that's a hard one for me to swallow. But it is what it is. Um, Here we are. So we inch closer and closer to, you know, this war that they've been trying to create for decades, this civil war. But America's too many people work for the government, and I've said it, probably 100 times. I maybe on this, platform YouTube through half a dozen channels, so almost a dozen years ago, that Americans will not stand up until they're starving. So a lot of bread and circus, a lot of fillers, but people are keeping themselves. It's like the only way you keep people in a jail or a prison is to keep them, you know, just enough fed that they don't want to try to break out theirs. Because if they were hungry, they wouldn't stay in that. They wouldn't stay in those walls. Just not enough security. They would figure out a way, because the mind is like that. So hungry people do different things. When you lose your mind and all you can think about is with your gut, you just think different. Let's put it that way. So um, will that happen in America? I don't know. I don't know if that will or not. Um, I mean, they have a good portion of the populace get some kind of assistance for food. So we'll see. Only time will tell. I know this is the sword, the famine, the pestilence, and the beast. We're seeing that. The four horsemen. We've already seen the rider on the White House. White horse. Two riders on white horses. One with a crown and a bow, the bringer of the disease and the cure of the disease, and the other one that holds the inheritance to the church, to the scepter, and has the sword. One with the sword. Shiloh, the scepter shall not depart from Judah till Shiloh returns. So that is the sign that the Magi were not the Star of David or Bethlehem, but the star that declared him high priest of the spiritual body is the people, and he is the head. Now, not Father, because he became the high priest, and that was severed with the destruction of the temple, of all the physical law, all this. Most people won't study this because they're religious. They just broker it off to some dude in some clothing or some fancy clothing, I guess, But most people don't think somebody in a suit can. I heard somebody said this the other day. Said, "Man, uh, 47, this warp speed president here, he can't do no wrong, man. He could jump off a building and land into a suit." It's like, dude, that's pretty awesome. I'm gonna have to repeat that. So if you're hearing that, I think that's quite hilarious. So some people just, yep, they can't lose. All they do is win, and that breeds a generation of entitlement. It really does suppress a lot of things. We've seen that with the younger generation, and now some of these older folks in the voting age and up have this can't lose mentality. And it's kind of like the trophy generation, because if you can't lose, and you're not going to, and I'm not about, I played organized sports and all that growing up in high school and stuff, but yeah, you got to get your butt stomped every once in a while to get, if you're the big, the one in town, all you do is just, go around and just stomp everybody on the field, whatever you're playing or whatever sport, and you're not going to get better. You need to play people who are essentially better than you, and it helps raise your ability. So yeah, it's good to be around people who are I guess maybe a little more well versed in this, in this area, if you will. So anyways, just doing again some work here on the backup channel. It's a little bump on the other channel, but that's okay. We'll roll through it. We got some more things again. Um, Always doing a bunch of different stuff out here at Silver Rock Ranch, and yep, trying to work towards getting that other property up and using the rest of this time that I have here soon to. While the weather's excellent, the weather's great. Wish you were here. Or wait, no, weather's here. Wish you were great. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, try to use this better weather to do the things that are needed to do outside. Some of this, a lot of physical labor needs done, and need to try to do that before we get into this dog days. July will be here before you know it, and then August we'll hit those dog days of summer, and then before you know it, it'll be winter. So summer doesn't stick around forever. It is definitely in the season. It's not the longer winter. And fall and all that. That's definitely the longer portion of the. Well, depending on where you're at in the hemisphere, but for many, as most, unless maybe you're closer to the north or very south or some towards the equatorial regions. So, but anyways, hey, at least we're keeping the stream staying up. We're not getting the traffic in here, but we could at least put up some content on the Silver's Light Gold channel here. So, not too much talk of precious metals. We haven't been doing a whole lot of that, but I've been seeing that the price of metal's gone up. Gold's up, silver's up, pretty much. Silver's outpacing gold. Teeny tiny market, the very tip, if you will. We do that on the other channel sometimes, but we spark. Maybe that's what we do. We spark the rich and talk about the other channel. Don't talk about the other channel. But anyways, we'll pick up some more time here, and like I said, we're not getting very much conversation here on this. We got other channels here. We were other channels and other platforms. So this was a channel that's been around for some time, a couple few years. There's content that's looking at on this channel over the other one. So here we are at Silver's Light Gold. Is silver like gold? Silver's been outperforming gold. Always leads out. Silver catches up. It's more of a ratio. Basically, price is a tool of manipulation. They valued silver and gold the same in the 12th century. So at the time of Rome, time of Christ, and now the ratio is something like 90 something. It was got over 100 again, which is incredible. It's only ever a few times ever it happened in history that it's been that. It's only been very recently. So the ratio that comes out of the ground is 7 to 8. I call that God's ratio. But yeah, most people don't own any precious metals, and they're not any into that market because they can go to their card and use that anywhere. And well, you can't take a silver quarter, which is worth like $6, and they'll just give you 25 cents for it. So, but it's worth $6 worth of silver, and yeah, what an amazing time to see this switch starting to happen. People are starting to figure it out, and it won't take long. As the market's so tiny, there's so much mass movement in the upper, what's it, three quadrillion dollars in the derivative market at three quadrillion. That's insane. If even a fraction of that, 0.01% of that moved into the precious metal sector, it'd be over. It just blow the whole thing. Or gold too, the same very thing, It take gold up to a phenomenal price, and then silver would just catch up with it, because silver will always, have a higher high and a lower low when it comes to the prices of silver. It's a more volatile price because it's, again, it's been used more than any other, metal for a monetary. It was actually the first metal in scripture was the silver dinar. So, guess we'll have some silver talk before we close her up. And most people are very unaware that silver is something that was widely used for thousands of years as money, and now people don't. They call money a Venmo or a Cash App or PayPal, which I'll take some of that if you got some of that if you want to. There's links in the description. So, but anyways, you can use those. But most people use digits on a screen or some plastic card, a debit or credit or some other form. Cash is definitely becoming kind of a relic, if you will. Cash used to be king, is what it's called. Cash is king, but not so much more like a Harley. A road king used to bring a ton of money, and now that's a lot of things that aren't holding value anymore. Um, Even some of these collectible things like watches and things like a Rolex and things. Some things used to be like, you know, like I said, a Harley's a pretty good example that not as good as gold, but they would say nearly or as good as gold, right? That term, as good as gold, because it always the value of it just keeps up with the purchasing power, and it doesn't lose its value to what it'll purchase you the same thing anytime in history. If you go try to buy anything, it's going to purchase you nearly the same exact product. So most people are unaware of that, and they don't know how to cash out of it. And yes, there is an issue when you buy in right now with premiums and things like that. But that'll all, depends on where you. Excuse me. If you get a seat at the party or at the party early, at the cakewalk, right? Maybe get a seat early. You're not the last one. So it's kind of reversed the way you got it set up now, where they do it literally. They got one piece of metal and they got hundreds of contracts chasing just one piece of silver or gold, and that's the paper market, and it's been blown out of proportion. So many people don't want to try to pay the premium because it's too much to actually hold the metal. For most people, holding just even one silver, or one gold ounce, it's what, 36, 30, 34, 33, 30. It's with the premium, it's nearly $4,000. Um, I think it's $4,800 in Canada for a gold maple. We had Stoner Connection, do some pricing for us and showed us that it was $4,800. Um, Silver hit $50 again in Canada. You know, hey, it's 33 or something like that, 36 here. That's a good price, eh? So if price is your deal, you don't hold it, you don't own it. So back by, I better go put it back in the metal. Or you think it's in Fort Knox? All that gold's in Fort Knox? I don't think so. We'll see. That's kind of a pivotal moment in this country. We'll see if that gold's in that vault, like they said in Fort Knox. We're supposed to have the greatest military ever guarding it. So I was a veteran. You know, I've been there. I wasn't stationed there, but obviously I've been there. And not a very wise move to put all your eggs in one basket. So we'll see. Again, France didn't get the gold back that they'd put in the vault in 45 back in 1971. So interesting to think that, it's still there. And if it's not, what would happen? I mean, that changes the whole financial system. I think, and again, it's valued at $45 an ounce on the books right now. Is where that somewhere or something like that. And yet, an ounce of it's going to cost you nearly $4,000 with a premium for, well, I think it's about $3,600 right now for an eagle, or somewhere to be a little bit more like a buffalo, gold buffalo, 50 piece, $50 buffalo, but maybe that's the purity. It's 24 karat. But generally, there are things like a Philharmonic or you know, Cougaran, some of these, depending on the newer year, they're about right now about $3,600 out the door for a piece of silver or gold ounce. So it'll always have bought you about that much. Um, a suit, a steak dinner, and a bottle of wine. So go back any time in history. Don't matter what the price is, you'll see. So that's what purchasing power does. And that's why it retains its power. Purchasing power is pretty neat to think about that. That these people have the ability to sock this stuff away. And if they can make wealth, they can sock it into something like that and quietly put it in their coffers. And, you know, so eventually I do think they'll let the price of both metals, silver and gold, run out because they'll have it by then. And copper will kind of be the new silver. I think it'll get pretty expensive for copper. It needs in circuitry and switches and as well. It's used in many. It's remember on a doorknob, antimicrobial. Um, People use it in farming. They put like copper pipe in their water for their animals. It'll keep it from getting all the algae and all that in there. I put silver in my water filters, in my Berkey water filters, and yep. So lots of uses for the metals, and we're going into this future tense where they're going to be needing all these metals to build all these robots and circuitry and switches, computers, and the whole future is tech and AI. They're going to need silver. They're going to need copper. They're going to need it in the circuitry. So most every circuit, or switch or breaker, things like that, anything that's got a circuit, it's got a little bit of silver in it. Sometimes copper, but silver is the most conductive, most reflective, you know, metal on this rock, and it's the most widely used. So it truly is. It's the bank killer, man. You save silver and you save lives because they use it for war. That's how they fund their wars, is with us. How do you think every circuit and every switch and every tank, every helicopter, since how long? How long have we had things with switches and circuitry? That stuff was around in the 1800s. So, um, since our inception, very important metal. And that's why the price of silver is so low, because they need it to fund the war machine. So, they probably use just as much silver as they do oil. So you can look at how many in a cruise missile, how many ounces of silver at the tip of a Patriot missile or a Smart missile or a cruise missile. How many ounces of silver get dropped on on someone unbeknown to them, and all that silver is just gone, toast. Kind of like when they use it up in solar panels, it gets used up. So how many ounces of silver are the tip of a cruise missile, a Smart missile? Most people don't know. So monster box, near monster box, and some of these things to bring it from its original, point of origin to its target, its final, you know, got epigee and perigee going away or coming, going away, but going towards the target. So perigee, bam, to the target. So, something like 500 or 5,000 ounces that it takes with all the circuitry to speak to the satellite, speak to what it's doing, and finally end up on its target. That's a lot of silver that just gets thrown away. So, pretty amazing. But all right, good talk about a little bit of talk about silver. We got a couple of people talking, but not too much. But that's all right. Leave a comment, like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Come in and watch the live stream, the restream, and comments are appreciated. It's just a little channel. It's a backup channel. We're just using it, doing some work here on the backup channel from the High Desert Faith and Truth Ministries. So maybe we've seen you over there before. We'll be back on that channel a little bit, but we're still, again, doing some work out here over on this channel. More things going on here at Silver Rock Ranch in the High Desert. Excuse me. Stay in the Word. What an amazing time to be a witness to all these things going on. It's not always going to be easy. Actually, a lot of this stuff can get really difficult. But those who probably prepare, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. So if you don't want to do very well, you probably won't do anything about it. So better if you do something more than once, or have, one is none, because when you use it, it's gone. Two is a backup, right? No, two is one, and three is a backup. So remember that. And talk a little preparedness. Hey, if things get a little nutty in your neighborhood, remember, everybody's going to try to take the easiest way out of town. So the shortest way is going to probably end up being the longest, and the longest way probably end up being the shortest. That's some really good preparedness. So, all right. Anyways, try to give you some gems. If you want to get back to this channel, you can. I put some links in the bio to some links to be able to support this through PayPal, Cash App. Yeah, comments appreciated. It's a little tiny channel, so we don't reach anybody. No matter, we're still doing this, still being a voice somewhere. Father's listening, and that's important. That I don't go down as the silent majority in history. I've just never been that person. There's a reason why I have, been doing this for 12 years on YouTube and have, you know, half a dozen channels. So thankful for that. We'll see you next time here on Silver's Like Gold. Whoa.